So lithium batteries by nature are always going to be in extreme conditions. I mean, if you think of your cell phone, it gets hot in your car, laptops are being transported all the time. Car batteries are literally car batteries. They are inside of a car, sitting in the hot sun. So there aren't a lot of extreme conditions that especially EV batteries can be exposed to that's really going to affect it. But if you have a thermal event, it's usually not because it's an extreme cold or an extreme heat conditions or because it's not being stored in the right area in your facility. It's probably because there's a defect in the cell itself, or you've done something to this battery, either through dropping it, it being in a car accident, or in some cases, mice chew through the wires causing an issue. You are going to have issues where you now have a DDR battery. You need to treat it as much as so for transportation, and then you have to make sure that if it goes into a thermal event that you are completely protected. So that's where you would default back into, what does my insurance company say about how I need to keep this battery in my facility? What do we want to do to keep this battery safe while we have it? So it's not so much the conditions that the batteries are in, but that if you have a damaged defective battery, that you have a good SOP, you understand how you're dealing with that hazard from your employee standpoint, from a facility standpoint, and how you're going to transport that damaged defective battery to get to an end-of-life recycler so the hazard is out of your hands and you can focus on whatever you do best. So a lot of people don't realize how volatile a thermal runaway can be. Many times I've had customers now with EVs that say, oh, we've designed this battery to be very safe. This battery doesn't go into thermal runaway. If it does, it's barely going to flame up. And time and time again, we will push it into thermal runaway at 100% state of charge. And they're always flabbergasted at how destructive that battery can ultimately be. Now, that doesn't mean that you didn't design a very good battery and a safer battery, but there are always going to be issues when you have a battery that goes into full thermal runaway, especially at high states of charge. Time and time again, people see the results of these thermal runaways and they're shocked. You can only imagine with an EV, this is some of the largest batteries that anybody will ever be around. A power tool battery can be destructive enough to burn an entire house down. You can only imagine what a large format battery does. Now, with that said, battery manufacturers do modules. They don't usually do large batteries completely in series. They're modules that are put into series together, and they do design them to hopefully only go into thermal runaway in that module itself and not get propagation. But you can still sometimes get propagation from module to module, having an extreme rapid disassembly or a very big fire event. What does this look like? It is very destructive. First of all, you're going to have off-gassing that is going to be filled with all kinds of flammable gases and carcinogens. So not only are you not going to want to smell the smoke, but the buildup of these flammable gases, if there's another fire or spark that ignites it, can actually create a very explosive event. That is very dangerous. People are always concerned about, well, how hot does it get? Well, at peak temperatures, we've seen as high as 1700 degrees at the cell level, not at the fire load level, but the cell level when you're pushing it into thermal runaway. And to give you an example, 1700 degrees can actually liquefy aluminum within seconds. Now, I always tell people, well, you make your cases out of aluminum. That's not very smart. You need to understand that that's at the cell level where the thermal event is actually happening. That's peak temperature. At the flame level, where the part that's actually trying to break out of the wood container or the aluminum container or metal container that we design, it is much lower temperatures that doesn't liquefy the metal, but it is still extreme amount of heat. So these thermal runaways can be very explosive. They can have a lot of gas on them, and it can have extreme temperatures and burn for hours and hours, in some cases days on end. So it's very important that you're housing these in facilities and or containers that can deal with those issues, so that once it goes through its full thermal event, you can evaluate the situation and move it to end of life properly.